I'm indifferent.
Oh, okay.
And Chris is, he's pretty enough in the dark. It's all good.
Yeah, introduce Chris and I'll be right over there in about 2 minutes.
I'm recording.
Okay, we ready?
All right, good afternoon. Are you all having fun at BSidesAugusta?
Yes.
All right, really good. So, if we haven't met yet, I'm Phil Panamura, hosting this track today, and really appreciate everybody coming and taking time out of their Saturday to do something excellent for this community. I was actually really pleased to see the number of folks under 18 here today, so that's really awesome. And I can tell you, first year we had, I think I shared some of these stats this morning, about 175 people. Last year, about 275 people. This year, over 500 people showed up, as some of you can remember if you sat in our registration line this morning. So we appreciate all your patience and working with us on that. So glad you're having fun. Our next speaker, I'm privileged to work directly with our next speaker on a few things. I had a buddy of mine move on from a former life that he and I had worked together, and he moved to a major automobile manufacturer, and he said, listen, we're having some trouble with our vehicles, and we'd like to bring somebody in that understands Modbus and can help us do some things around that. So immediately turned to our SCADA team in Mandiant, where this next speaker and I work together, and asked if they could help. So it's nice to have one of those experts to be able to just touch and reach out to on chat and talk about it. So this guy knows quite a bit about ICS and SCADA, so it's my privilege to introduce Chris Sistrunk.
All right. How to get in industrial control system security. That's what my talk's about. A little bit about me. I'm a registered professional engineer, electrical engineer. I worked for a power company called Entergy for almost 12 years. And I was the SCADA engineer there for 10 years, did all aspects of the SCADA system there, and worked on a lot of different things like the substation security team that we had. Also, I just fell in my lap with the Project Robust. If you Google that, you'll find out that me and a colleague of mine at another company, we found a whole bunch of vulnerabilities in DP3 protocol implementations. And then about just over a year and a half ago, I was hired by Mandiant. I wasn't looking for a job, they just gave me an offer, and now I'm with the Industrial Control Systems consulting practice there, and I help out with knowledge and trying to get folks like you interested in control systems, do the ICS Village like at DEF CON and RSA, and other places, even at BSides Nashville we had. And then I also organize BSides Jackson, which, shameless plug, it's November 7th in Jackson, Mississippi. So you're here. How many people here are familiar with industrial control systems at all? Okay. All right. Of those, how many of you work in control systems?
Used to.
Okay. How many people here, of those raise your hands the first time, work in security? Okay, so we got more security folks and then a few control system folks. Okay, and this is going to be a two-way conversation because I want to find out what excites you about control system security. Do you do it in your job now? Do you want to be able to do this? Find out all these things. But before we go any further, I'm going to show you a funny video that kind of explains what we do. Get this thing here. I got to play that.
Lower left, cool.
World headquarters. Research has been proceeding to develop a line of automation products that establishes new standards for quality.
All right, try that again. Let's see if I can find my mouse. Oh, there we go.
research has been proceeding to develop a line of automation products that establishes new standards for quality, technological
This
leadership,
basically describes what I do.
With customer success as our primary focus, work has been proceeding on the crudely conceived idea of an instrument that would not only provide inverse reactive current for use in unilateral phase detractors, but would also be capable of automatically synchronizing cardinal gram meters. Such an instrument comprised of Dodge gears and bearings, Reliance electric motors, Allen Bradley controls, and all monitored by Rockwell software is Rockwell Automation's retrocalculator. Now basically, the only new principle involved is that instead of power being generated by the relative motion of conductors and fluxes, it's produced by the modial interaction of magneto-reluctance and capacitive directness. The original machine had a base plate of prefabulated annulite surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing in such a way that the two spurting bearings were in a direct line with a panometric fan. The lineup consisted simply of 6 hydrocoptic marble vanes, so fitted to the ambifacient lunar wing shaft that side fumbling was effectively prevented. The main winding was of the normal Lotus O deltoid type placed in panendermic semi-boloid slots of the stator. Every 7th conductor being connected by a non-reversible tremie pipe to the differential girdle spring on the up end of the gram meters. Moreover, whenever fluorescent score motion is required, it may also be employed in conjunction with a drawn reciprocation dingle arm to reduce sinusoidal declination. The retrocalculator has now reached a high level of development, and it's being successfully used in the operation of Milford trendings. It's available soon, wherever Rockwell Automation products are sold.
Is that real? It is a long-running engineering gag. It actually first appeared in, I forget which publication it was, in the 40s. And an engineer thought it would just be funny to have technobabble show up, and then now there's been a lot of other takes on it. So Rockwell Automation had a really, I mean, that guy had a straight face the entire time, right? Now you know what a girdle spring is, and a dingle arm. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's talk about some numbers. Some of the folks in here are industrial control system humans, and there's lots of us. There's industrial control systems everywhere. Think about it: elevators, escalators, power grid, oil and gas, water, manufacturing. I don't even know how many industrial control system professionals and technicians and vendors and operators. All of those people. There's a lot of people that I can't even count it. At RSA, I think it was in April, or was it February, someone tweeted, or it might have been at DEF CON or Black Hat, someone tweeted that there were 189,000 security professionals. And that seems like a pretty fair number. I mean, there's almost all of them here in Augusta today with a huge conference like this. It's pretty awesome. So if you take the Venn diagram, the meeting of security humans and also industrial control system humans, I think there's less than 1,000 in the U.S. There's maybe over 1,000 in the whole world. I'm not really sure, but there's not very many of us at all that do just industrial control system security. And of that, if you take that number divided into 189,000, it's 0.5% of security folks focus on control systems. And as we know, control systems are responsible for all the critical infrastructure we have. Is 5% enough? I have the wrong number there. It's supposed to be 5%, 0.5% enough to protect critical infrastructure. No, I don't think so. So I'm recruiting you for ICS Security. thanks to Ed Scotus for stealing a little bit of my thunder, but he's a great guy. He did a great job with that keynote and getting everyone riled up and say, hey, yeah, we need to protect all the things instead of hacking all the things. So we want you to help us with industrial control system security. So there's two ways we can get into industrial control system security. You could go from the engineering type side, from the OT, that's operational technology. You can go from that side into industrial control system security, or you can go from IT side into industrial control system security. So I'm going to go with this first route with operational technology side. Let's say you've got the engineering background or technical background, like me, I'm an electrical engineer, power engineer for a power company, okay? I know how the plant or the process works, or how the power grid works, or how the oil and gas works, or how the water works, and all those things, right? How the manufacturing works. You probably already work with ICS components like PLCs, RTUs, HMIs, Modbus, Ethernet, over IP, DMP3, Profinet, Profibus. You probably know RS-232, because we still have a lot of that. Mr. Hayes is here walking around, that's pretty cool, right? Hayes modems, right? Wireless, and you might be familiar with NERSIP or CFATs if you're dealing with those standards in those industries. But how do we get you familiar with security? Well, there's got to be reasons why you do it. You either want to do it, or you kind of just get thrown into it or sucked into it. With me, I got sucked into it, and it was just fascinating. It was really fascinating to me about security. How can we protect our control systems and our critical infrastructure better? So I had to start learning, go to security conferences. Thanks to Iron Geek for recording this video and others that I have done and others that my colleagues have done in the past, and they've put them online. I appreciate that. SecurityTube has lots and lots of security, videos and instructional videos on how to do security, and it's easy to learn to do step by step. Lots of material online. Google is your friend. And then there's ICS specific security training from SANS, Red Tiger, SCADA Hacker, and a couple of others. There's a couple of Linux distributions, Samurai, STFU, which is written by Justin Searle, Kali, everyone knows Kali, or should know, and then Security Engine, of course, for the blue team. And if you're an engineer like me, and you want to know more about security, well, you can become friends with people that are on the IT security team. So that's a great thing. What's one of the best ways that if you're an engineer, if you want to go talk to the folks in IT security, what do? You just say, hey, here's some Red Bull. Tell me about security. Tell me about some of these things that you're learning. What is the reverse ARP? Things like that. Even basic IT things you might need to learn about. Why is it bad to have hard-coded backdoor passwords? Or the length of password, learning how fast it can be cracked, things like that. So you talk and you make friends with IT security community, and places like this is a perfect place to do that at conferences. If you have devices at work for your control system, why not take some of those and turn them into a security lab? So a lot of companies have control systems, have labs, so they test patches, and some of them used for backups, things like that. Well, if you don't have a budget for a lab, you might have some spare equipment lying around, like spare PLCs, spare HMIs, and say, hey, if no one's using this, can I use it and do some security, research, maybe hardening? How can we harden this HMI and find a way to make it harder for attackers to come in and shut off all the unused ports and services? Or maybe even fuzz testing some of your own equipment. And I like to put this Dilbert cartoon. Made a typo in my annual budget request, but don't worry, there are only two things you can't buy for the test lab this year: hardware and software. So you have to really be resourceful And I see some nodding heads. Some people just don't have the budget to do some of this stuff. So you got to just make do with the best you have. What got me into this as an engineer, Stuxnet in 2010 kind of like was the scariest thing that could happen, and it's also very sexy, intriguing. You could take a virus and make a control system go do bad things. Stuxnet, that really is the whole. I think there was a dark age for a while. People have been talking about control system security since about 2000, 2001. And nothing really happened between then and about 2010. That's the lost decade. It's the dark ages for us in control system security. Then Stuxnet happened, and it woke everybody up and said, okay, this can actually happen. What, as an engineer or technician or end user and operator vendor, what would be the Stuxnet for your system? You have to think like a bad guy, put on a hard hat and say, how can I destroy my system? I've been doing it the right way. I mean, you don't want to actually destroy your system. That would be bad. You'd probably go to jail. But think about how to attack it and ways to make it better so that you can fix those problems and mitigate some of these things. What if the attacker had all of your prints for your control system? Well, you have all those in your head. If you're a control system engineer or a control system technician, you probably know how the system works. Well, what if an attacker had that knowledge like you have? So what can you do to protect things? And you might find a vulnerability, like what happened to me. I found a lot of vulnerabilities and I wasn't even really looking for them. And to make things work well, this is one of the things I've always liked to say, to make things work well, you must break them. And then fix them, and then break them again, and then fix them again. That's a really great way to harden the system. Red team and blue team exercises. There's a lot of those that are going around. Capture the flags, where you learn how to use Metasploit, learn how to watch, like for instance, Modbus fuzzing. Like use Wireshark to see what's on your network as a blue team member, and maybe write some Modbus snort rules, things like that. Test them out on your own system. I don't know how to write exploits, but other people have, and they put them in Metasploit, and you can run them on your own systems and see what happens. And then obviously in a lab environment. Okay, so for the most of you in here, most of you are on the IT side of the house and you want to get into control system security. So I suggest one thing is Google all the things, right? You go to modbus.org and download the Modbus specification. It's free. And learn the protocols, just like ICS said. I mean, Modbus is one of the simplest protocols out there. It's been around since 1979. And it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. If you learn how to do Modbus, then you can get into more difficult protocols like DP3, BACnet, Ethernet over IP, other things. And there's a lot of code that already exists on GitHub about different control system stacks. OpenDP3 is one of them. My friend Adam, who was with me when we found all the DMP3 vulnerabilities, he had written a fuzzer to test his OpenDMP3 stack. And he said, well, I made this fuzzer, and why don't you try it out? So I tried it out, and it just found vulnerabilities in everything it touched. But he didn't find very many vulnerabilities in his because he's very good, writes very good code. Well, it just so happens that OpenDMP3 is a really great resource. If you want to learn about DMP3, there's tons of Modbus on GitHub. Other protocols, Wireshark already has 30 or more industrial control system protocol parsers, so it's pretty smart. There's a lot of packet captures online. So NetRepSec, people that make Network Miner, they have a library page that point to all the different places where you can download control system packet captures. SANS, Also has PCAPs available, and so does S4. The ICS Village at S4. It's a conference every year. And there's a lot of other things that you can Google too. I mean, the history of control systems. I mean, just about anything Google will find. A lot of videos. Anybody ever watched How It's Made? Anybody seen that show? Almost every one of those shows has some kind of control system in it. If they're making Legos or potato chips, right? There's control systems behind all those things. And you have to learn about the process and learn how the different pieces fit together. Once you learn what the engineer may already know, then you can figure out how to defend it. Because in Modbus, let's say like a PLC has ladder logic in it. And inside the ladder logic, you might be writing values to Modbus protocol. Well, you're going to see Modbus register 4001, 40001, 40002. Well, you don't know what those are. Those are just registry values. But if you have some knowledge about the process, then you can reverse engineer or actually just know what's in the PLC. Just do a lot of YouTube searches on SCADA, control systems, PLC, different conference talks. You'll have lots and lots of time to learn about the basics about control systems. Anybody ever made a Raspberry Pi? This one has OpenDMP3 on it. And we have a Pi-Face board that plugs into the GPIO pins. And my friend, he actually wrote the little driver to talk from OpenDMP3 to the Pi-Face, where you can actually control it. You can see on the picture, you can control the lights, and then there's two relay outputs, so you can control things like your Christmas lights or whatever. You know, there's probably about $100 when you get the case and all the fun stuff. And this is the Raspberry Pi Warning. You can get stacks for DP3, Modbus, BACnet, probably a few others as well. Arduino already has the Modbus library in the software, so you just go download the sketch file, and you can turn on the LED on the board. Also, eBay, if you want to learn about control systems, normally the equipment's really expensive. Like a PLC knee costs $10,000 with different configurations. They can go up to $20,000, $30,000 easily. So most of us don't have that much extra cash lying around. So you just got to get lucky on eBay. This one on the far right, so industrial hardened PC running Windows XP. Is an older unit. I got this off of eBay for $15, and it still had the configuration on it. So I was able to pull the SAM file, crack the password, and then I found out that it was running Wonderware, HMI. It still had the original configuration on it. So I didn't really do anything. I reported who it belonged to, and hopefully they won't be doing that in the future, selling their used equipment without taking the configuration off. But I was able to get that piece of equipment for pretty cheap. You can get new equipment, $700 or less. Phoenix Contact, just like ESCO's mentioned, have a little kit that you can get. So it's not quite as expensive as $10,000, but it's still pretty expensive. So make an ICS network at home. Raspberry Pi and Arduinos are probably the best ways to learn about those things. This is the greatest secret. If you're in security and you want to learn about control systems, it's pretty amazing. What you do is you take a box of donuts down to the engineers and the technicians, and you just talk to them. And if you bring engineers food, they will like you immediately. If you go to a place that has different kinds of donuts, maybe like sprinkles or cream-filled ones, or maybe kolaches, like the basic big pig in the blankets, right? That really, or those chicken biscuits from Chick-fil-A. I'm telling you, take one of those boxes to Homer, he works at the nuclear plant, and he loves donuts. So I'm telling you, control system engineers and technicians, they love donuts too. And if you bring them a box of donuts and say, tell me about your job, tell me what is interesting about control systems. I want to learn about control systems. And they will probably just tell you all their war stories. Learn what they do. Walk with them for a day or two if you can. If your business has both IT and ICS, show that you care and you're eager to learn. Create relationships across the company and across the industry. Because hey, I know a guy in our department that knows how to program ladder logic. That's pretty cool. And then he knows. Now I'm teaching him about security, so it's a win-win. They're teaching you about control systems, and you're teaching them about security. Now, and the biggest thing to do when you work for a company that has control system is RTFM. Everybody knows what that means? Read the manual. And there's lots and lots of manuals. Your Switcher 421 relay has about 1,400 pages in this PDF manual. I used to have it memorized, just about. But I've started to lose some of those things as I've been away from the power company. Very good documentation is very helpful. There's a few other things that we can do with control systems and learning about security. So connect with other people. There's an email list out there called SCADASEC. It's on Infracritical. It's run by Bob Grabanovsky and Jay Brodsky. They're really two good friends of mine. They've been in this business just about as long as anybody else. And that's a great way to learn about control system security and what the heartbeat of it is. There's emails that go out every day. You can actually go look at the entire archive. They're online on the Infracritical website. Then there's ICS Security conferences. Digital Bond has one that they've been doing for over I think a decade now. S4 is in Miami every year. It'll be in February or January. I'm sorry. And we have SANS ICS Summit, which is in February in Orlando. 4S ICS, which is next month in October, is in Stockholm, Sweden. Energy Sec, which is next week in Washington, D.C., but it hops around. Oil and Gas Security Summit, they have them in the Middle East, in the U.S., like in Houston. Whatever your field is, like whatever you want to get into, there's a cybersecurity conference. There's also Joe Weiss, he's had one for a long time called ICS Cybersecurity Conference. So just look up any of these, and there's probably more and more of these growing. We actually had a SCADASides last year in conjunction with ICS JWG conference, which is the Industrial Control System Joint Working Group conference. So just look online, look for those security conferences, go to those, and try to learn and connect with those folks there. And there's also standards. One of the best standards that's out there that me and my colleagues, we've all helped put effort into is from NIST. NIST SP 800-82 Revision 2. It just came out this year, Revision 2. It probably is chock full of the most important things about control system security, and it has a lot of good information that can help your organization have a more secure control system. IEC 62443 is another standard. It used to be ISA 99. And then there's the NERC-CIP reliability and compliance standard. CFATs for chemical, they're regulated. And that's just a few of the standards and other documents that we use in the industry. There's some good training out there as well. ICS Cert, they have free online training about ICS security. So you go online, check out some of their things. They also a few 1 or 2 or 3 day classes, but the big one that they make is a 5-day red versus blue class up in Idaho Falls. They take about 50 students, and for 3 days you're in an environment like this, learning about Metasploit, learning about how to exploit control systems. And then on the 4th day, I believe, because I've taken this training, they split you into 2 teams. 40 people go to the blue team, where you actually have, it's like a real cyber city. You actually have a company, and you are in charge of the email server, you're in charge of the domain controller, you're in charge of all the things. There's even a substation, and there's actually these 2 big chemicals. It's just water, and they're actually, there's ladder logic in the PLC that mixes a batch of chemicals, and every time it completes that cycle and sells it, you get points for every batch of chemicals you make. So the other 10 people are on the red team, and all they're done is given a public web page that ICS already set up, and you attack through the web page, pivot all the way down to the control system, and you try to dump their water everywhere on the floor, which we were able to do, but we still lost, because I kind of think they favor the blue team. Blue team, when we did it, did a really good job. That's a completely free training. All you have to do is just pay your way to get up there. Then SANS, their training isn't free, but it's very good. ICS 410 class, and that is more about just general control system security. And then the new one from Rob Lee, who wrote Scaling Me, the kids' book, and from him, it's ICS 515. It's a defense class, how to do defense and forensics and control systems. So that's a pretty good class. Red Tiger Security, some of my buddies, I guess technically they're competitors, but I don't care. They're my friends, and I always support them. Red Tiger Security, Multi Purge, and Skate Hacker, that's Joel Engel. They all have training classes on control system security, so I highly suggest them. And then there's vendor training, so for GE, ABB, Siemens, they all have very good training classes. And Rockwell, a couple of others. There's also certification. You have lots of alphabet soup certification in IT security, right? CISSP, all the alphabet. I'm a professional engineer, so there's not really a professional engineering license for security. And everybody that we need in control system security, we don't need them to be an engineer. We just need all the help we can get right now. So there's this new cert that just came out about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. It's called GICSP. It's a new certification that will basically teach IT folks the basics of control systems. It's test your knowledge, and takes control system folks and test their security knowledge. So they have a basic level of understanding on industrial control system security. So I recommend that. I haven't gotten it myself. I just haven't had time to take the test. I asked Mike Asante, who's over the SANS part of it, asked him if I could clip out of it, and he said no. I think he wants more money. So that's okay. Getting close to the end here. If you have any questions about control system security, I'll be happy to answer your questions. And I think I'll just go ahead and take questions now. So if you have questions, or what interests you? Yes, in the back. That's something.
Do you see the vendors taking security more seriously than the past? Some of the older systems have backdoor passwords and things like that. Do you see them taking that more seriously, or are they those let it ride?
Yes, good question. I guess everybody heard that since we have a microphone. That's great. Yes, the big vendors, the big vendors like GE, Siemens, especially Siemens after Stuxnet happened, right? ABB, they all have security departments now and a way to report vulnerabilities even. and they're removing their vulnerabilities. Switzer Engineering Labs was one. They were very good. I mean, when we broke, when we found that their DP3 stack was broke, they had it patched in 17 days. And when you log into one of these out of the box, it forces you to put a hard-coded, I mean, not hard-coded, a difficult password in there, not just RTU, or whatever. It won't let you put that in there. It actually forces you to create a complicated and long password. So there's a lot of, like I said, with Siemens, they went through the fire with Stuxnet. And then, let's see, I have if I can show it to you, in my talk that I gave yesterday at the Security Hunting Conference, I had a graph that showed all the publicly known ICS vulnerabilities, and it's just shot up to they're over 1,200 now since about 2010, and most of them are all after 2010 because of what Stuxnet had. So all of these big vendors, they realized that, yeah, we can't do the backdoor password anymore. We've got to do device driver signing and configuration signing and better encryption and things like that. And the smartphone industry has really helped out on that. These things are small and fast, where it used to be you could, and now you can get some of these same processors and control system equipment that are wide temperature range, and they have all the horsepower to do all the cryptography. So hopefully that answered your question. All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I don't know if you hear this. Are you seeing that companies like power plants and stuff like that, are they hiring ICS security staff? Are they just outsourcing so mandating comes in? Or are they just putting extra responsibility on the engineers to say, hey, this year for professional development, you need to get good at security too? Like, what's the trend in the industry relative to that?
Okay, the best way, well, let's say when you mentioned the power plants, the electrical industry is regulated by NERC-CIP, which is a big cybersecurity. It's a lot of people say so compliance is not even security, but it does a really good job. There's no flat networks anymore on those control systems for power companies that are applicable, because they're making them do a basic level of security. And there's security teams at the power companies. And I was on the security team. Got a couple of folks in here that I recognize that, I forgot to say, he's actually a SOC analyst for their control system. So there's, the money is there because of the compliance being driven into electric sector. Like chemicals, that's CFATs, they're regulated. So they actually have budget to do these cybersecurity compliance things, which does support the security, training and development, things like that. We had to do, when I was at the power company, we had to do annual cybersecurity training. I mean, you had to do like no tailgating when you walk through locked doors, things like that. I mean, even down to physical security. And but once you get outside of that, it can be hit or miss. So oil and gas, they've got money. But some of the like mom and pop, like water companies, they probably don't. And manufacturing, they probably don't. They're just trying to make their control system last as long as possible. So that's just kind of where we are. The bigger companies are better off and they have security.
It sounds like it mirrors commercial. Yeah, I mean, like small, medium-sized companies can't afford InfoSec resources, and the big companies can, and financials regulated.
Yeah, think about it like the hospital. Hospitals, they have just enough money to scrape by with what they have to meet for HIPAA and all these other things. But outside of that, I mean, there's still a lot of XP still at a lot of the hospitals, right? Same way with control systems. There's just not enough money to go take out all the vulnerable systems and rip them out and put new ones in. So that's why I've been adamant about doing monitoring, but that's pretty advanced to do for security. If you don't have a security budget, then you got a lot more things to worry about than monitoring. Because a lot of companies are still getting configured, right? Oryx get them, power plants get them, because you have USB air gaps, right? Any more questions? Yes, sir?
So how closely does Medium work with ICS CERT? And do you see the relationship between industry and ICS CERT getting better, as far as reporting vulnerabilities?
Yeah, I know everybody just about at ICS CERT because I started dealing with ICS CERT when I was at the power company. And I still report vulnerabilities. I do responsible disclosure to ICS CERT and the vendors if I find anything. And we actually have a few ex-ICS CERT employees that work for me. So we have a pretty good relationship with ICS CERT. Other companies, I don't know. When I was at the power company, we really didn't have any expertise in that, and I was the first one to ever report anything. So it's just kind of a trial and error. But if anybody ever finds a vulnerability, I can help you figure out how the best way to disclose it, because critical infrastructure, you got to be careful about it. You can't just post the vulnerability on a paste bin. Any other questions?
Do you have a daily read?
A daily read?
Yeah, like RSS feed or something. Sites that you check that are ICS focused or ICS.
I check Twitter, and I actually had to get permission at the power company to look at Twitter for control system stuff, because actually a lot of information is coming out there through the news. It travels fast there. Then there's a energy sector. I forget the link. I should have put it in here, but it's a web page that. Let me see. I might just go to it right now. Got time? So grab this back. Yeah, it's right here. I have it bookmarked. So it's a DHS open source infrastructure report. And so here's the one from yesterday. And then you have different sectors. And you just look at the energy sector. And it has all the news things. That's a great resource. Talks about financial. It's probably good for everybody just to look at, but it really does have a focus on critical manufacturing, nuclear, dams, food and agriculture. All the water and wastewater. It's all the stuff that has ICS. And the people also, you just check in with, you might have an RSS feed that you might create, or create some Google alerts, if you know how to do that, on SCADA and hack or ICS and vulnerability, things like that. Also, you can look at, I always look at the open source vulnerability database. Those guys over there put a lot of effort into actually looking at vulnerabilities that were not reported, that were just silently fixed, and they looked at the release notes of like SCADA software, and they said, oh, we fixed this vulnerability, but they didn't mention it to anyone, and they go and look through all the release notes. So,
okay.
And any more questions? In the back?
Which do you see as a better entry point from somebody from a security standpoint? Do you see going in through working under a company such as a manufacturer that's employing these systems, or working for an actual manufacturer of these systems? So, like, working in good gear manufacturing versus working for Allen Bradley or Siemens.
Yeah, the best way to learn is probably for an end user of those systems. So, like power company, manufacturing, things like that, I would say. Some of the vendors, like GE, Siemens, they actually do have a good department, and so if you weasel your way and get up into the security, that'd probably take quite a while to do that. If you don't have those skills right now, the best way to learn from an entry level is to say, I'm going to go work for the power company and maybe learn on their SIP team, or maybe work with their control system team, learn how to do some of the basics. Did that answer your question? Okay. There may be all kind of, just whatever interests you, whatever makes you get up in the morning and say, I think I'm really interested in this, and and you find a way to do it. Somehow I fell into security, and now I'm working, doing industrial control system security every day, and I love my job. So, how much time do we have left?
You got time to give away the giveaways.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. This is an alpha network, USB network device, 2.4 gigahertz. First person who can tell me what the standard TCP port for my bus is.
Oh.
Somebody say it?
TCP 102.
102? No, that's another control system protocol though.
So
Yes. No, that's another protocol too.
502?
502, we have a winner. .102 is for Siemens S7 protocol, and 20,000 is for DNP3. If you go, maybe we should go there. Let's go to Shodan. If I do this. Good. If you haven't seen Shodan, it's got some really cool things that they've added. And let's go to the. They have a whole thing on control systems. And they have all the protocols. So if you want to learn what Modbus is on the internet, oh, I sign in. You can get a free account, sign in. So here's all the Modbus that's on the internet right now, and they're actually scanning with Modbus. Okay, so we got another giveaway. Blue Team Handbook, Incident Response Edition by Don Murdoch. Let's see, what's another good question? What does PLC stand for?
Programmable logic controller.
Okay, who yelled that out, I guess? Okay. Gotta be fast, folks.
And the Raspberry Pi was given.
And this is a Raspberry Pi given from the Rural Tech Fund. That's Chris Sanders' organization. Really great thing. So let's see. Let me think of a harder one. Okay, that one was a little too fast. Let's see. Does anybody know what controller was attacked in Stuxnet? Simons? Well, it's a Siemens, but what's the model number? There's two of them, and I'll take either one. What's the Siemens PLC model number?
Step 7?
It was a step 7, so what model number though? Okay. Well, that's close enough. I mean, that's. Step 7, that was the HMI software. The PLC model number was S7400, and then there's the S7300 as well. All right. Well, thanks. And if you have any questions, just send me an email and or find me on Twitter. Send me a direct message. I'd love to help you guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. We'll get started here with the next talk.